Thank you, all the witnesses, for being here. By the way, I did my residency at the Medical College of Wisconsin. I spent 7 years there. My wife went to medical school there. Welcome all of our witnesses. Dr. Goldstein, in your testimony, you failed to mention that functional kidney organoids have already been grown using iPS cells and adult stem cells. Is that true?
It is true that organoids have been made. An organoid is not the same as an organ. In fact, Dr. Little, in whose lab that work was done, is a member of our team, trying to figure out how to harness organoid technology to the development of an intact functional kidney.
Enough. So with fetal cells, then you're trying to grow organs?
Ultimately, the goal would be to figure out whether using fetal cell lines or embryonic cell lines or induced reprogrammed cell lines, whether it's possible to build a functional kidney or not.
Okay. In the same thing, if you've already made it to organoids from iPS cells and adult stem cells, it seems like you're actually further along in that area using those.
I'm not sure I agree with that.
Okay.
I think that's a conjecture.
I can't dispute that.
Yeah.
You mentioned fetal cells related to spinal cord injuries. Are there peer-reviewed journal studies about, quote-unquote, cures of spinal cord injuries from adult stem cells?
There are published papers from a number of labs around the world that claim to have seen dramatic results with cells from adult sources in spinal cord injury. In a number of cases, those studies have been discredited. In a number of cases, we're just not sure, and we need to have further investigation to find out.
Okay, thank you. And can I ask, where do you guys get your fetal tissue?
So the fetal neural stem cells that we obtain for our clinical trials come from our collaborating company called NeuralStem, which expands them to a large number, literally billions of cells.
Okay, where do they get the tissue to start their cell growth?
I honestly don't know where they obtain their tissue.
Do they pay for it? Do you know?
I don't know, but I presume that since it is against the law for them to pay for it, that they do not pay for it.
Okay, and so somebody made that since tissue would otherwise be discarded, I'm just asking, this is a philosophical question, should anyone be paying for fetal tissue or making a profit from it since it was just going to be, quote unquote, discarded anyway? The reason I ask that is because we know that there are agencies that have been making a lot of money off of this tissue. So just philosophically, would you think that that would be the right thing, that money should be exchanged? I mean, I understand the argument is that it takes money to process the tissue, but
right, exactly. So I'm comfortable with the law of the land as it currently sits.
Okay, Dr. Schmainda.
Yes.
That same question. I mean, if the tissue is just discarded, I mean, does it make any ethical sense that people would be making a profit from it if it's just, it's going to, as been quoted by many people, a couple people in this hearing, it's going to be discarded anyway. What's the big deal, right? Then how come we're selling it and making a profit from it?
Right. The ends never justify.
How come we're buying it?
Exactly. So the ends never justifies the means. Supposedly there's, the guidelines in place, so the researcher is not connected with abortion. They clearly are. By creating the market that's driving the development of these cell lines or the use of fetal cell tissues, the biopharmaceutical company, there's a lot of areas where people could be making a lot of money. So it's clear that it's a money-making effort. And I also want to speak to the fact that if you don't mind, there's been a lot of discussion of the 1988 advisory panel, this blue ribbon panel that people have been discussing. And I want to clarify, because in my reading of this panel, there was actually 21 panel members, and of the 21, there was 2 or 3 that dissented from the majority opinion. Now, the majority opinion itself basically was that we agree that there is a moral question here.
Okay. I'm going to have to move on because
Okay.
I'm running out of time. Dr. Lee, you have any comments on that question about, I mean, it's just like, I mean, it makes no sense to me that if there's no money in this, the tissue, and it's about research, and I support research, don't get me wrong, and Dr. Harris addressed that in the last panel, that why are there organizations out there wanting to do this and why? If there's just no money involved, it's going to be discarded anyway. What's the big deal? We'll just use it for research. I mean,
Well, my comment is, if the argument that the fact that these would be discarded anyway had any merit, it would prove too much. It would prove that, well, then, since it's going to be discarded anyway, we might as well allow people to make money off this. Or in any situation where someone dies who did not consent to have his body used for research, the same argument could be made about that person's body and say, well, look, that person did not, yes, true, that person did not give consent.
understood. My time has expired.
yeah.
Thank you very much.